Hi esteemed viewer out there, it's so good to have you watch our very first video on Bece examination. It's so good to see you, and I'm Andy, your anchor on this channel. From today's lesson, we are going to see how we can get solutions on questions for approximation and then significant figure. And I assure you, at the end of this class, you should be able to know the following.
Express any number to significant figures. Round up numbers to the nearest tenth, hundredth, thousandth, tenth, hundredth, thousand, etc. Now, you'll be able to place decimal numbers in various place values, and finally express numbers in standard form. Now, let's look at approximation in general. Approximations are often linked to such terms as decimal places, significant figures, standard forms, and so on. Now, it is a method of assuming precise values to figures. In the next series of 4 videos under this topic, we are going to see real-time explanation of these terms, and we are also going to consider practical basic education certificate examination questions, which are real-time questions. Now, for this video, we'll be looking at significant figures. Now, what are significant figures? Significant figures simply involves positioning of non-zero digits in a numeral. It is usually applicable to both decimals and whole numbers. Now, for us to successfully carry out mathematical operations in significant figures, the following key notes should be noted. They are: 1. The significant figure in any numeral, take note, is the non-zero digit counted from the left-hand side of that numeral. Now look at the example given to you. If given the value 007368 and you are asked to look for the first significant figure, the first significant figure there is digit 7. Now looking at the second significant figure, you can see that the second significant figure is 3 and 4, and so on, as the case may be. Now, take note of this point. Keynote 2. Anytime any figure is given to any number of significant figure, now the normal thing, the conventional thing to be done is that any digit up to 5 and above will be rounded up, or we normally call it approximated, into 1 and is added to the digit before it, depending on the number of significant figures we want to get. Now look at the example on the screen. If given the value 0.3254 and you are asked to convert this to 3 significant figures, the result will be 0.325. But if asked to convert it to 2 significant figures, the result will be 0.33. Why? Because that number 5, as the keynote says, is approximated to 1 and is added to 2 to make it 3. Now the final keynote point you should take note of is that zeros that are found in between non-significant figures are counted as being significant. Now what do we mean by that? Look at the example on the screen. Given 0.030068, if you are asked to round this up to 4 significant figures, the result will be 0.03007. Now if you take note, the zeros in between 3 and 7 are counted as significant figure. Now look at the second example. When given 0.0301 and you are asked to round it to 3 significant figures, the value will be 0.0301. So if you note now that the 0 before 1 is also counted as a significant figure. Now these are the 4 key note points you should take good note of as we carry out samples, practical sample questions on this topic, significant figure. Now let's look at some few practical sample questions. Sample 1.
Now the first sample questions we'll be taking on the significant figure is express 0.03076 to 3 significant figure. Now when solving this, I want you to note that you have 0.03076, that this is your first significant figure, this will be your second significant figure, and this will be your third significant figure. Now take note that we define significant figures as the first non-zero value in a given number. Now the first non-zero value is 3. So looking at that, we are not going to include the 0 because it is not a figure, it is not a non-zero value. So the first significant figure is 3. So we have 0.03. The next value is 0. Remember, we said zeros in between such values can also be what? Counted. Remember our second keynote. Now this 0 will be counted. Now finally we have 7, and after 7 you will notice that we have the value 6. Following the third keynote, you will notice that we said any value that is above 5, that is 5 and above, will be approximated. In essence, it can be approximated, and the one value will be added to this to make this 8. That is what we call approximation. So if we approximate 6, it will make 7 to become 8. Looking at keynote C. So if we follow that steps, we will come to note that the solution to that question, to 3 significant figure, is this: 0.0308. And that is the solution to your answer. So you see, it's very easy. When given any question like this, make sure you follow the keynotes, and with the keynotes you can be able to find a very good solution to the question. Now let's go to our second sample question. Now sample question 2 says, evaluate 1 whole number 2 over 5 plus 3 whole number 3 over 4 and give your answers to 1 significant figure. Remember, they say you should give your answers to 1 significant figure. Now, how do we go about solving this? Now, to solve this, we have to first of all evaluate these 2 values. Now, given these 2 values, we have 1 whole number 2 over 5 plus 3 over 5. Now, how do we go about solving this? You change this to a fraction. That will give you 5 times 1, which is 5, plus 2. That will give you what? 7 over 5 plus 3 over 4. Now the next thing you have to do is to look for the LCM of this. Will give you looking for the LCM of 7 over 5 plus 3 over 4. The LCM of 5 and 4 will give you 20. Now 20 divided by 5 will give us 4, right? Now 4 times 20 divided by 5 will give us 4. Now 4 times 7 will give us 28. Now plus 20 divided by 4 will give us 5. So 5 times 3 will give us 15. Now you go as much as you can to add these 2 things. If you add these 2 things, what are you going to get? 28 plus 15 will give us 8 plus 5 will give you 13. 2 plus 1 will give you 3 plus 1, 4. Divided by what? Now 20. Now you have to try as much as you can to break this value to a smaller fraction. Now how do you go about breaking down this value to a smaller fraction? Let's make this a fraction. 43 divided by 20. How many 20 can you get in 43? That will give you 2. 2 whole number. What will remain? 43 times 20 times 2 will give you 40. So the remainder there will be 3 over what? Over 20. Now this is the value you are going to get. Now let's look at how we can bring in this value and change this fraction 3 over 20 to decimal point. Change this fraction to decimal place, to decimal fraction, or to decimal value. Now let's go about doing this. You remember the normal long division you were taught in school. If you are given this to change, you come this way out of this. This will be 3 divided by 20. Now 3 divided by 20, you know is not possible. You write a 0 here with your point. Then you add a 0 here. Now you're going to have 30 divided by 20. 30 divided by 20, you have a 1. You have 1. There is going to be a remainder, but we're still going to have it. 20 times 1 will give you 20. Now if you subtract this, you have what? 10. Now 10 divided by 20 is not possible. We'll put a 0 here, and that will make it 100. 100 divided by 20 will give you what? 5. So we have a 0.15. 20 times 5 will give you 100. So if you subtract it finally, you're going to get a 000. So the decimal value of this value will now be what? 0.15. So let's add it to these 2 points. That will now give us our what? 2 plus 0.15. That will give you a value of what? 2.15. That's the solution you are going to get. Now the question you are asked is you're asked to convert this to one significant figure. Now when asked to convert this to one significant figure, remember this is a decimal point and the only value they want you to have there is just one figure. So if we convert this to one significant figure, we are going to get the value 2.0. So it's approximately what? 2. So the solution to this question, if you ask to evaluate this value so that at the end you have a value, your solution will be equal to what? 2. Now suppose you have a situation in which you have a value here and the value is from 5 or above. That is when you can now end up approximating to make this value 3. But in that situation, this value 1 is not up to 5, so we will not have any need of approximating. So our final solution should be 2. You see how easy it is solving this kind of question. Now let's go to the third sample question for this topic, significant figure. Now let's take the final sample question 3, and it says approximate 0.4059 to 3 significant figure. Now to go about this is just similar to the first sample question we did. Now let's consider the solution. Now to solve this, all you need to do is to bring out the significant figure. That will give you 0.4059. And remember, I told you significant figure is the first non-zero figure or digit in any number you are given. Now the first non-zero digit is what? Is 4. Now the second number is 2. We are going to count this 0. Why? Because it is found in between two non-zero values. According to the rules of significant figure, it must be counted. Now that will give you the second significant figure, and this will give us the third significant figure. Now remember the other rule I told you. approximation. If you have any value after the last significant figure and it is 5 and above, it need to be approximated. Remember that. Now if you approximate this, you're going to end up taking 1 to this to make this value, to make 5 6. So your final result now will now be what? 0.406, and this is the solution. So this is the value to 3 significant what? Figure. I hope you get it. Now this is the solution to this question. Now I want you, as far as you can, at the end of these sample questions, we're going to give you quizzes, and I want you to take your time, go through these quizzes. And apart from these quizzes, I want you to go extra miles to look for solutions to more questions on significant figure. And I promise you that if you keep on trying these solutions to questions, even if they are so difficult, don't get tired. Join us in our community and drop the questions there. We'll look for solutions to such questions for you, and we'll help you to master solving significant figure. If you do that, definitely you are going to see significant figure as a small math you can easily play with in due time. So we look forward, thank you for watching this video, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video.